Sure. We'll take a little more. We'll take about 5-10 minutes with this after you're done. After you're done.
don't want to get up and leave it.
After it's Q&A, we'll be done. Wait for your time.
Use this mic.
This one? Okay.
Here. Tell me when you are ready. Yes.
I just make a. Huh? Oh, all right.
Are they all ready?
Okay.
Cameras are ready.
Just wait a second.
Audio is fine. आवाज आ रही है?
Good afternoon. This afternoon we're going to be focusing on the Indian economy, the real state of the Indian economy. In terms of the presentations today, the initial remarks will be by our former Finance Minister, Shri P. Chidambaram. Following that, Salman Soz and I will take you through this presentation on an economy in deep trouble, the Modi-Jaitley legacy. And after that, we will engage with you in terms of questions and answers. We will also distribute another document to you called 5 Wasted Years, which is an essay that looks into every sector of the economy, every sector of government, and shows you how this government has been a miserable failure on the economic front. Over to Shri P. Chidambaram.
Good afternoon. However much the Prime Minister and the BJP want to take away the narrative from the economy, ultimately what matters to the people of India is the state of the economy. I believe, my party believes that eventually the people will judge this government based on its performance in the management of the economy. As we get closer to the end of the elections and the declaration of results, I find that people have begun to find their voices. For example, the economic division of the Ministry of Finance has published its monthly report for March. And that report is a damning indictment of the state of the economy. Yesterday, the NSSO shot a major hole into the CSO's data and the CSO's GDP series. It turns out that the MCA 21 data, which has so far not been made public or shared with any researchers or economists, is full of falsehoods. 35% of the companies in the MCA data do not exist or cannot be traced. That's the kind of bluff and bluster which the government has used to present a rosy picture of the economy. But now all that is falling apart. Let me quickly list 10 or 12 headlines from the March 2019 report. Firstly, and this is only for the last 3 years, 2016, 17, 17, 18 and 18, 19, the GDP growth has declined from 8.2% to 7.2 to 7.0. The gross fiscal deficit has remained flat. Capital expenditure has remained flat. The GDP deflator, which is a measure of inflation, has been rising from 3.1 to 3.8 to 4.2. the current account deficit has been rising from 0.6 to 1.9 to 2.6. Private consumption expenditure has declined. Government consumption expenditure has declined. The fixed investment rate has declined. The growth in gross value added in agriculture has precipitously declined from 6.3 to 5.0 to 2.7. Gross value added in industry has remained flat. Index of industrial production has declined. Growth in gross value added in services has declined. And we could go on and on. There's not a single parameter which has shown a rising trend. Yet, Mr. Modi wants us to believe that after 5 years, the economy is robust or strong. This is perhaps the weakest point of the economy in the last 5 years. I think we're back to where the economy was in 2004. The next government has a lot of work to do to repair the grave damage done by the BJP.
Thank you, sir. I want to take you through a few more details, and this is a handout that you will have with you. Mr. Chidambaram has pointed out that the government's own GDP figures show declining growth. Now, yesterday's NSSO data and the expose that has come out in the Mint today suggests that even these numbers, which we were doubting, these are already overestimates. And therefore, it is pretty clear that GDP growth under this government is much lower than what even they claim it to be. Now, again, when it comes to the fiscal deficit, let's take a look at that picture. If you look at the tax revenues that have come in, it's pretty clear that the government is going to be facing a very significant shortfall of 1.6 lakh crores in tax revenue, and the fiscal deficit is likely to be nearly 3.9 to 4%, much higher than what this fiscally disciplined government, so-called fiscally disciplined government, has tried to portray. Inequality also under this government, which is a Soot Boot Ki Sarkar, has also worsened considerably, and you've seen that. We're showing you the details on that front as well. And the last slide that you will see on this picture here is about investments and savings. Only when savings increase will investments increase, and when investments increase will the economy's growth increase, more jobs be created. And you can see the downward trend during the few years of Modi Sarkar. This has led to, next, a massive jobs crisis across domains, and we are aware that the unemployment rate is at a 28-year high. And the labor force participation rate across sectors, male, female, urban and rural, is all showing signs of continuous decline. The youth are facing severe joblessness, and the highlights are on the side out there. Just in 2018, more than 1 crore worth of jobs have been lost, and a large number of those people who are still at work are earning less than 10,000 per month. This is also after the damage done by demonetization, which is alleged to have which is shown to have cost 35 lakh people their jobs, and which has resulted in the male workforce shrinking for the first time in 25 years. So the grim unemployment scenario, the fact that there are no jobs, in total contrast to the Prime Minister's argument that he would create 2 crore jobs a year. That's the reality, and that's why when the Prime Minister throws challenges, he never ever throws a challenge to compare his economic track record with our track records over previous years. Salma?
Thank you, Rajiv. I want to talk about rural distress. अगर आप farmers की कहानी सुने, मोदी जी कहते हैं कि 4 साल अभी के बाद 4 साल में फार्मर्स की इनकम डबल हो जाएगी, उसके लिए एग्रीकल्चरल सेक्टर का ग्रोथ रेट क्या होना चाहिए? 10% पर ईयर। आप लोग पत्रकार हैं, आपको पूछना चाहिए मोदी जी से कि लास्ट टाइम इंडिया में एग्रीकल्चरल सेक्टर की ग्रोथ 10% पर एनम कब हुई? जब आपको वो जवाब नहीं दे पाएंगे, आपको पता चलेगा ये जुमलेबाज सरकार है। आप वेजेस की हालत देखिए क्या है, आप फार्म प्राइसेस को देखिए क्या स्लम्प है, आप एग्रीकल्चरल ग्रोथ देखिए यूपीए के टाइम में और एनडीए के टाइम में, बुरा हाल है। और ये सिर्फ वादे करते हैं, निभाते तो है नहीं। आप कंजम्पशन पे चलिए, क्योंकि आखिरकार जब लोग स्कूटर खरीदते हैं, जब लोग ट्रैक्टर खरीदते हैं, ऐसी ऐसी चीजों रिटेल सेल्स होती हैं, that is what contributes to the to economic growth. That is how you create jobs. यहाँ पे तो कुछ है नहीं. Indicator after indicator, the Modi government is underperforming. And by the way, this chart that you see on the left, it is not a comparison with UPA 1, which obviously had a great growth rate. ये तो UPA 2, जिसको सब कहते थे खराब है, तो Modi government cannot compete with UPA 2, and they deserve to be thrown out. हाउस होल्ड्स की सेविंग जो है कम हो रही हैं, हाउस होल्ड में कंजम्पशन कम हो रहा है, और लोन ज्यादा लोग लेने लगे हैं पर्सनल कंजम्पशन के लिए. दैट इज अ डेंजरस थिंग एंड वी हैव टू वॉच आउट, एंड दैट इज व्हाई दिस गवर्नमेंट मस्ट बी किक्ड आउट, सो दैट वी, यहाँ पे जो हमारे एक्सपीरियंस लोग हैं, वो इस इकोनॉमी को वापस रिवाइव करेंगे. राज,
If you look at investments and what's happening, number of factories built per year on average has come down dramatically under the NDA. What happened to Make in India, you might want to ask. Investment and manufacturing investment has declined, fresh investments have declined, and the value of new project announcements continue to fall. And if you turn to the banking sector, where neither are banks lending nor investors borrowing, you see that what is increasing are the number of banking frauds, the number of willful defaults, the rise in the number of NPAs, and we are facing a huge crisis in the NBFC sector that will only unfold and be this government's gift to the next incoming government. Credit growth has been extraordinarily sluggish. And when you move to the import-export domain, as Mr. Chidambaram pointed out, you will see that the current account deficit, exports minus imports, has been worsening. Imports continue to grow. Exports are at a 14-year low as a percentage of GDP. Similarly, the rupee, they made a lot of noise about the value of the rupee before the last election. Today, it stands at 70 to the dollar. And this at a time when oil prices are firming up and we're going to be facing numerous challenges. So the good days, the अच्छे दिन, where when oil prices globally were low, this government did not take advantage of it, and as a result, we're left with a sluggish economy, and foreign investments are not coming in either, they're on the decline. So overall, what you see is a government that has failed the Indian economy. They're good at writing blogs, they're good at vile talk, but nothing when it comes to managing the economy in the way it should be managed. We will also distribute and send you by email the report on 5 wasted years across sectors of the economy, and together with everything else that we've discussed here, you will have a clear sense of mismanagement of the most horrendous sort under Mr. Modi and Mr. Jaitley. We're happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Professor Gowda. We'll have questions now. किससे सवाल है जी?
See, NSSO data shifted the base year, which is not unusual. But NSSO data, I'm sorry, the CSO data, CSO data shifted the base year, which is not unusual. But the CSO data gave up the RBI database and switched over the Ministry of Company Affairs database called MCA 21. Now, MCA 21 has not been made available to anyone in the public domain, not available to economists, not available to researchers. It's a closely guarded secret of the government. They are using MCA data to get information about companies, their production, their profits, etc. Now, NSSO, in the survey that was underway and completed, has found that 35% of the companies in the MCA database do not exist. They are not traceable. They've either closed down or they are not found in the addresses they have given. So what is the data you're using to fool the people of this country that the GDP growth is much higher than in UPA? This is a scam. This is a scandal which has to be investigated first before we find solutions to it. Well, I thought I gave a long list of problems. All that this government is leaving behind is only problems. We have to address every single aspect of the economy. Growth, fiscal stability, sluggish imports and exports, rising current account deficit, fall in investments, fall in consumption expenditure, and the steep decline in agricultural growth and services sector growth. Between the two, agriculture and services sector account for about 82% of India's economy.
I know the manifesto speaks about AI, but if you were to form the next government, what would you do to improve consumption demand and also to fix the NBFC sector crisis that's ongoing? What would be the plan?
See, these are not questions which can be answered in one sentence or two sentences. This requires much deeper study and a longer answer. Obviously, a press conference is not the place to answer. Now, the NBFC crisis is both a crisis of regulation, regulatory failure, and mismanagement of liquidity. These are the two main reasons for the NBFC crisis. So now that we have identified the reasons, we have to address both regulatory failure and the liquidity issue.
On the consumption front, FMCG companies are seen as some
Consumption is declining. The Ministry of Finance's report says consumption is declining. Now, Nyay, one of the objectives of Nyay is to remonetize the economy. The people at the bottom of the ladder, the bottom 20%, will have more money to spend. And therefore, we think that it will boost consumption of certainly wage goods and consumption of some other goods which are very essential.
Neeraj.
See, I started by saying, however much Mr. Narendra Modi wants to take away the narrative from the economy, ultimately we believe that the people of India will vote on the state of the economy. Ultimately what matters to them is, do they have jobs? Is there enough investment in the area in which they live, both public investment and private investment? And is there an increase in their income? These are the matters which will weigh with the voter when she enters the polling station. Mr. Modi may believe that he can sway the people by his rhetoric, mostly false rhetoric, but ultimately I believe people will vote on matters which concern them in their day-to-day lives. And that is security, economic security, jobs, investment, and the general increase in infrastructure availability in the area. No, I blame the political leadership. I think the political leadership has interfered in an area which was normally beyond limits. You don't interfere with the CSO's working. You don't interfere with NSSO's working. The political leadership has virtually captured or intimidated the CSO and the NSSO. You saw two of the only remaining officers resigned, Mohanan and Meenakshi. So it is entirely the blame that has to be laid at the door of the political leadership, whose approach has been to capture and intimidate institutions.
Yes, Kumarji.
No, there is an answer in our manifesto. We said that we will consolidate the banks, no more than 6 to 8 banks, big banks in the country. And on the NPA problem, we have said in the manifesto, and Dr. Manmohan Singh repeated it, the one-size-fits-all approach was totally wrong. You should have taken a sectoral approach. Steel sector, telecom sector, MSMEs, power sector. You should have taken a sectoral approach and addressed the sectoral NPAs. Instead of that, they put out a one-size-fits-all approach, irrespective of the sector, irrespective of the external factors. They said all of them have to be referred to the IBC, which is why we are in such a state of affairs. We will adopt a sectoral approach and we will find solutions to each sector.
No more questions?
Well, I'm going to leave at 4:25. I have to catch a flight. So if there is a...
Sir.
Yes, go ahead. Last question.
Italian journalist who has done a report from Malaport airstrikes when the Indian government had conducted the armed forces have conducted the airstrike. So she has now in her report said that I think very safely state that after the strike there was a large number of JEM cadres were affected and killed.
So I have no way to verify it. We have always said we have no way to verify these claims one way or other. It's for the government to put out answers or put out evidence if they wish to do so. But this government has flatly refused to put out any evidence. And if you ask for evidence, we didn't ask for it in the first place. The Wall Street Journal asked for it. If you ask for evidence, you're an anti-national. So maybe if you ask the question again, you might be dubbed an anti-national. So I think you better be careful.
Okay, thank you very much.
The document.